Volám sa Boris Bayer, vyštudoval som všeobecné lekárstvo na Lekárskej fakulte Univerzity Komenského a PhD na Slovenskej akadémii vied v odbore normálna a patologická fyziológia. V tomto podcaste sa venujeme medicíne dlhovekosti a teda najnovšej medicíne tohto tisícročia, prevencii chorôb, životosprávou a výživou, fyziológii a popularizácii vedy založenej na dôkazoch a mnohým ďalším. Tento podcast je pre všetkých k dispozícii úplne zdarma, takže ak v ňom vidíte zmysel, nezabudnite ho ohodnotiť na obľúbenej podcastovej platforme 5 hviezdičkami alebo lajkom a šejrom videa. Som vďačný za každú podporu. Partnerom tohto podcastu sú probiotika Simproof. Sú to živé tekuté probiotika, ktoré sú overené nezávislými štúdiami. Pre viac info www.simproof.sk. Partnerom tohto podcastu je Poliklinika Váš lekár. Väčšina z vás asi vie, som spolumajiteľom a medicínskym riaditeľom v Poliklinike Váš lekár a je to nová poliklinika, ktorá sa venuje preventívnej medicíne v Bratislave v Eurovej 2, kde máte všetko pod jednou strechou. Pre viac info poliklinika.vašlekar.sk. Vítajte v novej časti podcastu MUDr.Ovačka. Táto časť bude opäť jedna z tých špeciálnych. Ja viem, že to hovorím často, ale je to tak naozaj, pretože veľa špeciálnych dielov vyšlo koncom roka a tento bude brutálne špeciálny, pretože hosťom je vyše 100-ročný doktor a profesor medicíny, ktorý vyštudoval na Loma Linda University a dlhé roky žil v zóne dlhovekosti, ktorá je Loma Linda, jedna z tých 5 zón. Má cez 100 rokov, čiže je dlhoveký, je to doktor a potom ako vyštudoval medicínu, vyštudoval na Harvarde výživu, že má mastra z výživy na Harvarde. Brutálna kombinácia, skvelý hosť. Som veľmi zvedavý, čo na to poviete, pretože ja som mal veľký stres, keď sme sa spájali. Je to teda profesor alebo doktor John Scharffenberg. Bol jeden z prvých, čo skúmali cholesterol ako molekulu, keď ešte sme nevedeli, že čo vlastne cholesterol je. A mám množstvo informácií pre vás. Ja ich budem komentovať po slovensky, po určitých častiach, keď vám pustím tú časť. Bolo to nahrávané cez mobil, čiže ten zvuk nebude úplne ideálny. Bavili sme sa po anglicky, ja vám po každej časti to zhrniem po slovensky a vyjadrím k tomu aj nejaký možno svoj názor. Veľmi často sa stretávame, v niektorých sa nestretávame 100%, ale to je úplne normálne. Takisto nerátam, že každý sa bude stretávať 100% s mojím názorom, vrátane vedcov, takže bez nejakého ďalšieho pokecu. Poďme na to.
Dear Professor, thank you that you came to my podcast and I really appreciate that you took second time to speak with me and can you maybe tell me that what was your life like when you started thinking about medicine, about preventive medicine, about nutrition. Tell me something about your start of the life.
I was born in Shanghai, China.
Okay.
My parents were missionaries over there. My dad had a language school. He taught the Chinese how to teach their language to businessmen and missionaries.
Okay.
With the Berlitz method without using any English words. And anyhow, we had a famous doctor there, Dr. Miller. Dr. Harry Miller built 15 hospitals in China. He had special training at Johns Hopkins in goiter surgery. And he was known for removing goiters. Well, here I was, just a young boy, 12 years of age, and I wondered, why didn't he give the people iodine? So he didn't have all those goiters.
Yeah.
and so I saw that he was a doctor and had more influence than the ministers did. So even though I was spiritually inclined, I tended to go towards the medical thing because they had more influence with the people. And then I tended to go to prevention because I saw how silly it was to spend all this time taking out goiters when you could give something to prevent the goiters in the first place.
Okay.
So that's how I got into all this business. Now, there's several ways when you get through medicine is how you can get into prevention. One would be, say, like my father did, speak out against alcohol and tobacco. He did that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do the same thing. And then there's the psychiatrist. I haven't felt any of them did a lot of good. So I was kind of disappointed with psychiatrists. So the mental health I didn't get into. But I ended up in nutrition because a lot of people tended, when you talk about nutrition, to think about religious things. I guess many churches have something about it in their beliefs. So anyway, I decided to go into nutrition. And when I got through medicine, eventually I went to Harvard School of Public Health. And when I finished there, I was asked to join the Interdepartmental Committee on Nutrition for National Defense. Their offices were on the grounds of the National Institutes of Health. They were not a part of the NIH, but they were located there. And I was on the secretariat. We had 3 people on the secretariat. The leader was a biochemist, Arnie Schaefer. I was the clinician, clinical nutritionist. And then there was an agricultural specialist, Peterson. And so I was there, and we did surveys of all of American allies all around the world, both the military and the civilian. I myself participated in the survey in Libya. But my main job was to teach all the groups that were to go to a country like Ethiopia or India, to teach them what they would expect when they got there. Mm-hmm. And so I had to review everything we knew about them nutrition-wise to tell that team what to expect. And so I was with that group for about 3 years, and it was a very worthwhile group. It taught me a lot. I met all the top nutritionists in the country. They were on the board of that organization. Okay. And now I've gotten to be 101 years old next month, and everybody's asking me, how did you live so long? Yeah. And in fact, when I was 100, we had a family celebration. More family members got together than we've ever had together before. Because we've never had anybody 100 years of age before. Okay. So anyway,
you're the first in your family. You're the first.
100. Yeah.
Okay, and so you've been born in 1924.
To 23.
23. Okay.
December 15, 1923.
Okay, and so you've been born in Shanghai, in China. So you speak Chinese.
Yes.
Yes, because I've seen the interview of you and some Chinese lady, and you spoke a little bit of Mandarin.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Chinese. I finished the first-year language course of my father's in Chinese. That means 1,000 characters. You have to speak it and write it and understand it, what it means, use it, you know. Okay. And so I learned Chinese, and I talked to that Chinese lady in Chinese.
That's okay. Awesome. And you studied medical school at Loma Linda University at 1948?
Well, I graduated in 1948. Yeah. And I went to Harvard and got my master's in public health in 1956.
So you studied nutrition at Harvard University.
And then I taught at Loma Linda University for a total of 64 years. Okay. So I've done a lot of teaching.
Čiže rozhovor sme začali tým, že som sa pýtal profesora Scharffenberga, ako sa vlastne, aké boli prvé jeho roky, ako sa dostal k medicíne. Hovoril o tom, že sa narodil v Šanghaji, lebo jeho rodičia boli misionári tam a žil tam do vlastne tínedžerského veku. A bol tam jeden známy doktor Miller, ktorý bol skvelý v tej dobe na operáciu zväčšených štítnych žliaz a a ktoré v tej dobe skrátka veľmi často vznikali kvôli deficitu jódu. A hovorí teda, že ako 12-ročný chlapec sa pýtal, že prečo im nedávajú jód, aby vlastne vyriešili príčinu a nemuseli riešiť následky, čiže operovanie tej štítnej žľazy, ale vyriešili by tým príčinu, čiže toho podľa jeho slov doviedlo do medicíny. V tej dobe bola úplne iná medicína. Predstavte si, že John sa narodil v roku 1922 alebo 23, kde tá medicína proste fungovala inak. Hovorí potom o tom, že nechcel sa venovať veciam ako jeho otec, ktorý bol vlastne, ktorý kritizoval konzumáciu alkoholu a fajčenie, čiže konzumáciu tabaku, a nechcel robiť to, čo on, preto sa rozhodol, že sa bude venovať preventívnej medicíne a výžive. Ďalej hovorí, že sa dostal do výboru pre výživu pre National Defense, ktorá sídlila tam, kde NIH, ale nebola súčasťou NIH. Boli tam traja. Líder bol biochemik, on bol klinický dietológ a ten tretí človek na sekretariate bol agrikultúrny technik. Venovali sa dátam zo všetkých spriateľných krajín, či už vojensky alebo civilne. Venoval sa dátam z Líbie. Tejto skupiny bol súčasťou 3 roky. Stretol sa tam s všetkými top výživármi v krajine v tej dobe. Čiže profesor bude mať 101 rokov, 15.12.1923 sa narodil a my mu prajeme všetko najlepšie, pretože je to presne deň predtým z hodou okolností, kedy vychádza práve tento podcast. Takže úctyhodný vek. Bavíme sa o tom, že som videl pri príprave na ten rozhovor, ktorý sme mali spoločný, rozhovor s jednou dievčinou z USA, ale teda s čínskymi koreňmi, a že rozprávali sa fluentnou mandarinčinou, že vie po čínsky. On, že áno, že skončil vlastne nejakú prvú triedu kurzu, že musel vedieť 1000 tých písmen a musel im rozumieť a musel ich vedieť hovoriť. Takže doteraz rozpráva ako storočný aj po čínsky. Hovorí o tom, že v 1948 skončil medicínu, graduoval ako MD a 1956 skončil na Harvarde výživu. Potom učil výživu a prednášal o výžive zhruba 60 rokov na Loma Linda University.
Now, because I'm so old, everyone wants to know how.
Yes.
How did you get to be so old? And so I began to study it and look up, what are the factors in longevity? And let's go over some of those. Gender, I think, is the first factor. Women live longer than the men. I think more boys are born, but they die sooner.
Okay.
Now, that's been well studied, but with no good solution. But, for example, there was a Korean physician who took 81 eunuchs, examined 81 eunuchs, no testosterone produced, and some of them really lived a long time, 14 years longer than other people. Yeah. And
they should have a little bit of testosterone, but just a little bit from their adrenal glands.
Yeah, right. But anyway, since they were eunuchs, didn't have the testicles,
yes.
They 81 of them he studied, and they lived longer, some of them even 14 years longer.
It's crazy.
So he was postulating that maybe the testosterone wasn't good for us.
Maybe is it because they didn't have a kid?
And then the other thing is, maybe on the other side of it, maybe the estrogens are useful. They've studied all these things, but nobody really has had a good solution why the women are living longer than the men. Now, in the U.S., the women live about 6 years longer. Now, it's the same all around the world, that the women live longer than the men. So it's not just unique to the U.S. Yeah. It's everywhere is that way. So if you're born a girl, you're likely to live longer.
So it is not our place.
Now, when a nation gets to have older population, the reason occurs primarily because the kids are not dying when they're young. That means if you have a good UNICEF immunization program for the children, they don't have all these different diseases. For example, with the immunizations we've had, we no longer have yellow fever, no longer have smallpox, no longer have polio, we don't have rubella, German measles. We have some diseases like measles, whooping cough, pertussis, and diphtheria, but not as much as it used to be. With diphtheria, we used to have 15,000 die every year from it. We don't have that anymore, okay? So in the past century, the life expectancy in the U.S. has increased by 30 years. So I can see why I lived longer than my father. My father died when he was 76, and here I am 100,
Yeah.
101.
When you've been born, you were supposed to live like 50-something years, no?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. So I've outlived my father already, quite a few years. And my two brothers, they were much in the habits like I was, but I've lived, a lot longer than they have lived.
So
15 and 18 years.
yes,
Longer.
and they've been non-smokers, didn't drink alcohol.
We didn't smoke, we didn't drink alcohol. And we were vegetarian.
Yes, the same diet.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between your life and their life? And when maybe?
The difference was when I got to be 51,
Okay.
I moved from Loma Linda. It was quite smoggy there anyway. I wanted to get out of there. But, the way you got points in teaching, if you gave an hour lecture at a class, they gave you full credit, 1 hour point, 1 point. But if you did field work with your students, took them out, showing them how to do a weight control program or something, at Palm Springs like I did, you spend a lot more time, you get only 1/4 of a point.
Okay.
And my work was mostly field work. I was the first one to take students overseas from our university, took them to the Philippines, and did good work in public health on a little island over there. It was quite interesting. So it's usually when a country has a lot of older people, it's because the children aren't dying so fast. That's where the main advantage comes. So immunization system is very important.
Všetci sa ho teda pýtajú, že dožil sa 100 rokov, ako to robí. Hovorí, že prvá vec, čo je kľúč, že nebyť mužom, čo sa mu nepodarilo, pretože ženy sa dožívajú dlhšie. Podľa štatistík, o ktorých hovorí, sa rodí o niečo viac mužov, aj cez to viac zomierajú a zomierajú skôr. Hovorí o tom, že v skutočnosti nevieme doteraz, prečo to tak je. Predpokladá sa najviac tá teória testosterónu, alebo vplyvu testosterónu na dlhovekosť. A hovorí o tom, že študovali eunuchov, 81 eunuchov, ktorí sa dožili markantne dlhšie ako kontrola, ktorí mali semenníky. A ja som mu takým, že polojokom do toho povedal, že možno to je aj tým, že nemali deti. A každopádne bavíme sa tam o tom, že menšie množstvo testosterónu v skutočnosti mali, pretože to prebere z časti nadoblička, ktorá vie vytvoriť nejaké množstvo testosterónu a androgénov. Potom ďalšia vec, ktorú sme tam preberali, je, že či to nie je otázka skôr protektívneho vplyvu estrogénov, ale že doteraz to nie je nejak významne konklúzne, takže zatiaľ ešte o tom nevieme, prečo muž je nezávislý rizikový faktor a prečo je vlastne neovplyvniteľný rizikový faktor, pretože sa tak rodíme. Hovorí o štatistikách, že v Spojených štátoch sa ženy dožívajú priemerne o 6 rokov viac, ale že nie je to štatistika, ktorá je exkluzívna pre Spojené štáty. Všade po svete to vydávame, že ženy sa dožívajú viac. Profesor hovorí o tom, že veľmi významne ku predpokladanému veku dožitia prispelo práve očkovanie, ktorý náš v dnešnej dobe je stále otázka nejakých debat na internete, že on si pamätá, keď to očkovanie prišlo a významne to zlepšilo dožívanie, že nezomierajú deti na nezmyselné choroby, ktoré už v dnešnej dobe nie sú, alebo nemali by byť, nemuseli by byť, keby všetci svoje deti očkovali. A teda za posledných zo pár dekád od minulého storočia teda sa zvýšil predpokladaný vek dožitia o viac ako 30 rokov, čiže nečuduje sa, že prežil svojho otca, jeho otec sa dožil 76 rokov. Hovorím profesorovi, že keď sa narodil, tak vtedy mal predpokladané, že by sa mal dožiť cca 50 rokov. Že hovorí, že áno, že taká bola vtedy štatistika. No a dostávame sa ku zaujímavej téme, že prežil svojich bratov o 15 až 18 rokov aj cez to, že boli všetci nefajčiari, všetci abstinenti a všetci vegetariáni. Tak som sa spýtal, že aký bol teda medzi nimi rozdiel. Povedal, že zhruba v 50 sa odsťahoval z Loma Linda, lebo chcel odtiaľ proste ísť preč, bol tam smog a chcel asi zmeniť miesto, kde bol. Ale dostaneme sa k tomu za chvíľočku, že ako sa zmenil jeho životný štýl alebo život.
And I think ACEs, I don't know if you've heard that term, adverse children's experiences. Mm-hmm. There's about 10 of those ACEs. If somebody's mentally off in the family, somebody went to jail in the family, those are ACEs. Mm-hmm. If the mother pays no attention to the kids, there's no emotional connection, that's another ACE. Mm-hmm. And there's about 10 of those. If a person has 6 of those, he's likely to cut 20 years off of his life expectancy. Mm-hmm. So we have to be sure we have good people helping these folks in these troubled families to help them so that they don't lose a lot of life expectancy because of that. Okay. Now, the next biggest thing I think in longevity is the thing that's killing most of us in industrialized countries is cardiovascular diseases, heart attacks and strokes primarily.
And you studied it at Harvard University. You studied you studied cholesterol and heart disease at the Harvard University when you are doing your master's degree.
Yes, and when I was at Harvard, my study was on cholesterol. It was a new word those days, new word. People didn't know what it meant. But anyway, I studied that at Harvard, and it was kind of interesting that in 2015 or 2010, the American Heart Association came out with new findings. If you avoid 7 lifestyle factors, you can decrease first heart attack, and the first stroke, you can decrease them by 80%. Now, there's no medical procedure that can do anything like that. There's no medicine that does anything like that. That's not good. You also decrease diabetes, chance of getting diabetes, by 88%. Yeah. With these lifestyle factors. That got me really excited about prevention when it's so good. But how do we get people to know to do what they know they should do?
So what are the 7
next
factors?
Big breakthrough.
What are the 7 factors?
Yeah, 7 factors. Okay, here's what they are. Alcohol, tobacco we've known for a long time, 1962, Surgeon General's report. Then inactivity, okay. Lack of daily exercise. Next factor is overeating. Okay. Next factor was, 5th one, not enough fruits and vegetables. It was too much meat and sugar. And then they added 2 others, had to do with hypertension and high cholesterol. But those 2, you wouldn't have them if you did the first 5, because they all mitigate against having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, tobacco, alcohol, and all those things. Okay? So this is kind of exciting. And even the people who are on statin pills to lower their blood cholesterol, the guideline is you're supposed to start the person on lifestyle first. But the problem is so many people come in, overweight lady comes in, doctor writes a prescription, you will now exercise 1 hour every day. A month later, she comes back a little fatter. Did you follow my prescription? No. And after he has 100 such patients, he gets tired of this prevention business. It's not working. Yeah. Our next big breakthrough in healthcare has to be and how to persuade people to live like they even know they should live. It's hard to do. Yep. Okay? But it is interesting that many diseases with these 7 risk factors, you can cut down more than any other way by avoiding these lifestyle factors. Simple lifestyle factors.
No a postupne sa v rozhovore dostávame ku výžive a ku tej takej tvrdej medicíne, že pre neho ďalší z tých najdôležitejších faktorov dlhovekosti, longevity, je zabraneniu srdcovo-cievnych ochorení. A najmä teda infarktu a náhlej cievnej mozgovej príhode, ktoré nás zabíjajú stále najviac. Bavíme sa o tom, že on študoval na Harvarde, jeho téma bola práve cholesterol, hovorí o tom, že v tej dobe to bol nový pojem, ktorý veľa ľudí nepoznalo, nevedelo, keď sa objavila táto molekula a dostala sa aj medzi kardiologov. A hovorí o tom, že v roku 2010 až 2015, nie si istý presne kedy, Americká asociácia kardiologov mala nejakú vyhlášku, kde zistili, že keď budeme preventovať, čiže zabraníme 7 lifestyle faktorom alebo faktorom životosprávy, tak predídeme viac ako 80% prvého infarktu a prvej náhlej cievnej mozgovej príhody. A takisto predídeme 88% vzniknutým cukrovkám druhého typu. To sú podľa profesora také čísla, ktoré nemá žiadny liek. Tých 7 rizikových faktorov, ktoré boli popísané v životospráve, je fajčenie, alkohol, nadváha a obezita, zlá výživa, neaktivita, nedostatok športovania a pohybu a vysoký krvný tlak a vysoký cholesterol. Profesor hovorí o tom, že ak máme týchto 5, tak tieto 2 nebudú existovať. Platí to podľa všetkého, že nie pre každého, ale pre druhú väčšinu pacientov určite. Niektorí majú toho čierneho Petra, že aj keď majú týchto 5 rizikových faktorov zvládnutých, tak môžu mať hypertenziu alebo zvýšený cholesterol. A každopádne druhá väčšina populácie naozaj, keď vyrieši týchto 5, tieto 2 nebudú mať. Profesor hovorí o tom, že aj pri statinovej terapii, čiže liečbe na vysoký cholesterol, je guideline číslo 1, alebo že to, čo zvolíme ako prvé riešenie, zmena životosprávy. A to si dovolím povedať súku je aj pri liečbe krvného tlaku. Vždy je tam číslo 1 v guidelinoch odporučiť pacientovi zmena životosprávy. Čo sa však deje v reálnej praxi, že príde k lekárovi pacient, povie mu, že máte vyšší cholesterol a mali by ste robiť toto. Dobre, príde na kontrolu, o niečo tučnejší, s rovnakým alebo zvýšeným cholesterolom a tým pádom sa prístupuje často ku liečbe liekmi. Čiže je to aj trošku pre ňoho a pre mňa tiež systémový problém a nie je to problém systému na Slovensku, je to problém systému v USA prakticky všade vo vyspelom svete, že áno, že tie guideliny sú nejaké, odporúčania na životosprávu sú, aj sa odporúčajú, ale nefunguje to ľuďom. Čiže my musíme zmeniť prístup systémový, ako ich to naučiť a presvedčiť a donútiť v skutočnosti, aby tie lifestyleové zmeny dodržiavali. Pretože, ako hovorí profesor, že tieto jednoduché rizikové faktory vieme eliminovať.
Now, let's get into some of them, particularly tobacco. The lifestyle factors, tobacco is really one of the big ones. In the United States, back in about the 1950s, or 60s, we had a heart disease and cardiovascular disease death rate that was high. We've decreased that to about 1/3 of what it was then.
Okay.
Through our lifestyle programs and medicines they've used too. But we've decreased it quite a bit. And it was tobacco that did it, stopping smoking. So we've done pretty well in our country because of stopping smoking. How did we get people to stop smoking? We taxed it real high. Made it expensive. Kids didn't want to buy it, spend their money that way. So that was useful, taxing it high. Then we made laws. You can't smoke in this area, that area, the other area, and gradually expanded that. And so we've done very well in the U.S. as a whole. Only 11% of adults are still smoking. In California, only 9%. That's where a few of the smarter people live. Only 9% are smoking. And so that's good. Now, I go to Europe, though. You get off the airplane, you get out in the lobby of the place, and you smell the tobacco right away. Yeah. Now, I know in Vienna, they finally have a law that there's no smoking at the airline there at the airport. So that's good. But it's gradually coming in these other places, but they're way behind. Eastern Europe was terrible. Smoking is terrible, much more than Western Europe.
And it's the same right now.
Yeah. So tobacco was really a major factor. And I would say in Europe, what I have seen, tobacco is in most countries still the major factor. We need to get some method to get people to stop smoking. Then that cuts down longevity tremendously.
Z tých rizikových faktorov vyberá potom tabak, že v 60. rokoch, keď sa masívne začalo utlačať fajčenie, tak sa znížilo práve množstvo týchto srdcovo-cievnych ochorení zhruba o 1/3. A že ako sa im to podarilo, že jednoducho dali na to vysoké dane. Že to bola skvelá cesta. A druhá vec, že dali zákony, že môžete fajčiť tu nemôžete fajčiť, čiže sa eliminovalo vlastne počet možností, kde si mohli zapaliť cigaretu. Hovorí o dátach, že v Kalifornii fajčí už iba 9% občanov tohto štátu. Dáva tam takú poznámočku, že to je vlastne miesto, kde tí múdrejší ľudia v USA žijú. Hovorí aj o tom, že keď začal chodiť po svete, že východná Európa je na tom strašne zlé stále v rámci fajčenia.
Exercise is extremely important. I had a lady who worked with me. She was extremely obese. And here I am, a preventive medicine doctor. So I said to her one day, I said, you know, I'm a preventive medicine doctor. I must talk to you about your weight.
But you did it politely.
And her face dropped. I said, do you want the good news first or the bad news? She said, tell me the bad news. I said, the bad news is that almost for every disease we know, if you're obese, it increases your chance of dying. But now let me give you the good news real quick. If you are obese, real obese, and you exercise every day, you will have a lower chance of dying than a normal weight woman who doesn't exercise.
Yeah. And it's true.
Oh, she said, that's good. I want to see that scientific study. And my colleague is also overweight. So I need 2 copies of that. So that's kind of exciting. It's true. For every hour you exercise, according to the Harvard alumni study, you will live 3 hours longer now. It used to be 2 hours. Now they're raised to 3 hours for every hour you exercise. So exercise is extremely important. But another thing we should add to it, in their study of Alzheimer's, I think they've discovered this. Exercise should be promoted in midlife. That is, not kids, not old people like me, but from 40 to 70 years of age, midlife. If they exercise then, that's when they usually don't exercise. They have more money to buy more food, to relax more, don't exercise so much. That's the time they need to exercise more. And we don't talk about that. We just say everybody should exercise, and that's true. And how much should people exercise? I think in Hawaii they did a very good study. Those who walk 2 miles or more a day compared to, or ran, anyway, two miles more a day compared to 1 or less, had only half the death rate.
Yep.
That's quite a bit. Cutting your death rate in half by spending an hour in exercise, that's worth it. If we could use that to get people to excited about exercising, it might be worthwhile, okay? But now, with the tobacco, our tobacco, still a few smoking, and so our drop in our cardiovascular disease has not been consistently going down like it should. And there's 3 reasons why it's not still going down.
We can continue.
There's 3 reasons why it's not going down more. One is there was a sudden jump in diabetes rate. I don't know what happened, but we do know that the women who are on statins have 71% higher risk of diabetes than the ones who are not on statins.
They can cause insulin resistance. Yeah, it's approved.
That's right. Yeah. So, and then another thing, hypertension is now considered the number 1 cause of cardiovascular disease in our country.
True.
Hypertension. And another factor is the children are obese, kids. That means 30 years from now, we're going to have a real obese population because the kids now are obese. So these are one reasons why the cardiovascular disease rate has not dropped more. So exercise is important.
Druhý rizikový faktor, o ktorom hovorí, je nadvaha a obezita. Hovorí o tom, že mal kolegyňu už v práci, ktorá bola extrémne obezná a ako preventívny lekár si s ňou musel porozprávať a povedal jej, že má hmotnosť, ktorú by mala riešiť. Má pre ňu teda 2 správy, že jedna je zlá, druhá je dobrá, že ktorú chce počuť prvú, povedala, že zlú. Že tá zlá je tá, že obezita zvyšuje riziko na akékoľvek civilizačné ochorenie, ktoré existuje. A tá dobrá správa je tá, že keď začne cvičiť, a aj keby bola obezná, tak ak by cvičila každý deň, tak jej šanca na úmrtie alebo na tieto civilizačné ochorenia je podobná ako ženy bez obezity a nadváhy, ktorá necvičí. Hovorí tam o zaujímavej štatistike. Za každú hodinu cvičenia budeme žiť o 3 hodiny dlhšie. Hovorí tam o tom, že mali by sme zacieliť cvičenie práve pre stredný vek, že nie na deti a nie na seniorov, ale práve na ten vek, ktorý je najviac rizikový, pretože sú najviac v práci, majú dostatok peniazí na kupovanie jedla a majú málo času na cvičenie, že práve na nich treba tie kampane zacieliť, pretože to potom má najväčší účinok aj do seniorského veku. Ďalej hovorí o štatistike, ktorú poznáte viacerí aj z môjho profilu, že je to teda v mílach, nie je to v krokoch, ale že ľudia, ktorí robia denne 2 míle, čo je nejakých 3,2 kilometra a porovnávajú ich s ľuďmi, ktorí robia iba 1 mílu alebo menej ako 1 mílu, čiže to je 1,6 km do 1,6 km denne, majú šancu, že zomrú na akúkoľvek príčinu úmrtia o polovicu nižšiu. Hovorí o tom, že prečo neklesá tak veľa množstvo srdcovo-cievnych ochorení, ako by sme chceli, že jeden z tých dôvodov je diabetes, že hovorí tam o štatistike, že ženy, ktoré užívajú statiny, majú vyššiu šancu diabetu druhého typu. Je to potvrdené, že áno, statiny môžu mať nežiaducí účinok za určitých okolností, inzulínovú rezistenciu a samozrejme tie štatistiky rátajú s tým, že žena, ktorá už je na statínoch, zrejme je riziková, čiže tých rizikových faktorov tam môže byť viac, vrátane obezity, ktorá je rizikový faktor pre diabetes druhého typu a tak ďalej. A samozrejme, že deti začínajú byť obezné, že nie len dospeláci, takže ten diabetes bude vznikať, keď to nezmeníme, aj v mladších ročníkoch, čiže skôr a tým pádom aj to riziko na srdcovo-cievne ochorenia bude skôr a bude vo väčšej časti populácie.
And what about alcohol? What do we know some kind of statistics for alcohol? Because a few years ago, doctors said that it's good for you to drink a little bit of alcohol to have a good cardiovascular health, but we know something different, no?
They used to say 1 drink a day for women, 2 for men was safe. Now, Dr. Max Griswold from the University of Seattle did a big study, the biggest ever, on alcohol. He was a social drinker. He wanted to know how much is safe to use. And it was funded by Bill Gates, has a home right behind the Washington University there in Seattle. And he funded the whole thing. And it was a very good study. And he found the answer to this question, how much is safe to drink? It was 0. So we don't say 1 drink or 2 drinks a day is okay. We say now the upper limit is 0, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
So alcohol is a problem. Now, another point, in our country, we have too many people dying from chronic kidney disease. 1 in 7 of our people in this country has chronic kidney disease. 90% do not know it. The reason they don't know it yet is the doctor doesn't know it yet. He doesn't do anything till their BUN goes up or their creatinine goes up. You know, he doesn't do anything. Doesn't tell them. So they don't know they have the problem. And when those things go up, it's almost too late to change their diet to help them from that standpoint. So the nephrologists have gotten together, and the Cochrane database on that disease says that if they had lower protein in their diet through their life, we could probably cut this down to 1/3, the death rate from kidney disease. So that's kind of interesting too. These exercise specialists are saying, get more muscle, eat more protein. And on the way out of the exercise place, you see shelves full of this high protein stuff that you're supposed to get. And they don't know anything about your kidneys. They say, just eat the protein.
You know what? I think that there are some nuances that how many strength training does people have, how much muscle mass do they have, because we have one new meta-analysis right now that says that they said high protein diet was more than 1.3 grams per kilogram, and there was no association when the people were healthy sporting, and also there was better association with health with plant protein.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ďalej tam hovorí o významnom rizikovom faktore chronické zlyhávanie obličiek, ktoré je aj u nás a aj v USA, že veľký problém toho je, že obličky nebolia, tým pádom ľudia nevedia, netestuje sa kreatínin a podobné ukazovatele. Dostávame sa k téme, v ktorej nie sme 100% zhodní s profesorom. Hovorí teda o tom, že tým pádom ľudia majú veľa proteínu v diete, alebo teda veľa bielkovín v diete a to im môže zhoršovať obličkové funkcie. V skutočnosti, ja som teda mu povedal o štúdii, že vysokoproteínová dieta sa v novšej analýze ukazuje, alebo teda sa to klasifikovalo, že je to 1,3 gramu na kilogram hmotnosti. Nebola tam žiadna spojitosť, že je veľmi dôležité, že keď ľudia cvičia silový tréning a tie bielkoviny sa niekam dostávajú, že sa nepotrebujú toľko filtrovať. A vieme z tých štúdí, ktoré máme, že keď je niekto so zdravými obličkami, áno, vysokoproteínová dieta, nazvime ju vysokoproteínovou do tých 1,6 až 2 gramu na kilogram hmotnosti. Je dlhodobo v pohode udržateľná, nemá negatívny vplyv na obličky, všeobecne na zdravie. A áno, platí, že u ľudí, ktorí majú zlyhávané obličky a nevedia o tom, vysokobielkovinová dieta môže poškodzovať zdravie. Bavíme sa tam aj o spojitosti, ktorá tam vznikala. Už vo viacerých štúdiách vznikala, že konzumcia rastlinných zdrojov bielkovín je skôr opačne spájaná, čiže skôr protektívna a tých živočíšnych, ak je rozumné množstvo, tak nie. Čiže ak sa mieša s tými rastlinnými zdrojmi, tak to nemá negatívny vplyv. Ak ľudia jedávajú veľa živočíšnych zdrojov bielkovín, tak mávajú vyššie riziko. A opäť hovoríme o tých nuansách, že či tie štatistiky kohortu nehovoria o ľuďoch, ktorí jedia, že veľké množstvo živočíšnych, malé množstvo rastlinných zdrojov, nielen bielkovín, ale všeobecne, čiže majú menej vlákniny, menej zeleniny, ovocia, fytochemikálií, polyfenolov, proste tých vecí, ktoré by mali mať v strave za normálnych okolností plošne ľudia a naopak, či nemajú veľa nejakých spracovaných potravín, ako je, že spracované mäso ako také a tak ďalej.
Overweight is a big problem. Now, if somebody's obese, if they exercise every day, they will live longer than the non-obese person.
Obesity and overweight got some tools on our musculoskeletal system, on our joints, and when you have bigger weight, it's physics. When you exercise, when you move, when you do steps, you get higher weight, so your joints will feel it in some time.
Now, the top exercise man in the U.S. just passed away about a year ago. He was 5'8", weighed about 180, 185 pounds. He was fat. And he says, we're attributing much of this disease to their being overweight, when really it should be because they don't have cardiorespiratory fitness. If they are overweight, but they have cardiorespiratory fitness, they aren't going to get all these diseases, which is kind of exciting. Because I wrote him once. He's a good friend of mine. I never met him personally, but we emailed a lot. And I said to him, look, how can I persuade my people to exercise without ruining their joints?
Yeah.
He sent me back 50 pages that he had printed a scientific article. He's trying to show that the joint problem causes from a football accident. You were playing football and got injured. Then exercise, of course, aggravates it. But that the exercise itself did not cause the problem initially, is what he was saying, which was a new thought to me entirely.
Okay. Well, we have a few more new studies that says that exercise is really good for arthrosis, but when people are overweight and obese, the effect is smaller, much smaller. So.
Now, yes, and again, another thing is exercise is important, but do you know? Increased exercise, too much, can decrease your life expectancy just as much as too little.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find out how much difference is there between the two. And we've had several studies on that. And one study showed that, say, going 10 miles a day, walking even, over that was too much. Running 5 miles a day, over that was too much. And so we're trying to figure out the difference between too much and too little. And it's not too far apart.
I think a lot is about the heterogeneity of the movements. So I want our patients to move different ways throughout the week, so they can do like walking, working in the garden, moving some stuff, doing a little bit of strength training, running, cycling, and like this.
I think they need different kinds, but as Cooper pointed out, he started the word aerobics. I think about 70% of it should be aerobic type, but we need the other kinds too, for other reasons, all right?
Bavíme sa tam aj o tom, že ako nadváha vplýva na všeobecne nielen zdravie, ale napríklad na kĺbny aparát, že je to proste hmotnosť, aj keď má človek viac svalovej hmoty alebo všeobecne hmotnosť, že je to fyzika, že sa opotrebujú viac kĺby, ale že cvičenie toto môže nejakým spôsobom kompenzovať, že ľudia, čo cvičia, majú menšie problémy s artrózami, ale tí, ktorí sú obezní a s nadváhou, tak ten vplyv toho cvičenia je o niečo nižší. Bavíme sa tam aj o tom, že niektoré štatistiky hovoria, že príliš veľa pohybu môže podľa profesora byť spájané s dlhovekosťou podobne ako príliš málo pohybu. Niektorí už viete z podcastu, ktorý bol kedysi dávno, možno pred rokom, kde som to analyzoval, tie štúdie v tých metabolických units, v tých MEDS. Je to tomuto si dovolím povedať nejakú môj názor, že s tým, že tie štúdie nie sú úplne konklúzne, že myslím si, že drvivá väčšina ľudí pre optimalizáciu zdravia nebude potrebovať príliš veľa pohybu a podľa mňa všetko to bude spájane aj s tým, že tie štatistiky takto ukazujú, že sú to ľudia, ktorí sa snažia príliš veľa cvičiť, lebo chcú si zmaximalizovať ten zdravotný benefit, ale nedokážu tú aktivitu toľko zregenerovať a proste je to nejaký stres pre telo, sú tam nejaké oxidačné procesy, ktoré sa dejú počas toho, ako robíme aktivity. Preto ako profesor hovorí, že nejaké štatistiky, že tuším 10 míl chôdze denne a viac bolo spájané negatívne, 5 míl behu denne a viac. Ja si dovolím povedať, že keď tá aktivita je zregenerovateľná, že ten človek má ten čas na spánok, na nepiky, na masáže a podobné, a na ukludnenie toho nervového systému. Nemyslím si, že tam bude nejaký významný účinok, ale stále platí, že drvivá väčšina ľudí nebude potrebovať až tak príliš veľa pohybu denne, aby si zmaximalizovalo to zdravie. Hovorím aj o tom, že je to o heterogenite tých pohybov, to znamená, že aby sme mali čo najviac tých rôznych pohybov, aby sme skrátka, že iba nebehali celý týždeň, ale aby sme robili, že bicykel, beh, chôdza, práca v záhrade, nejaké cvičenie s vlastnými váhami, cvičenie s činkami, skrátka meniť to a mať čo najširšiu škálu tých pohybov, hrať nejaké loptové hry, športovať v kolektíve, športovať individuálne, proste aby to bolo krásne pestré. Hovorí profesor aj o tom, že jeho známy Cooper hovorí o tom, že štatistiky ukazujú, že zhruba 70% aktivít by malo byť aerobných.
Now, it's interesting that the American public got upset with the American Heart Association, saying, we're getting too much meat, too much sugar. Cut down on the meat. They were really upset with that. So the American Heart Association changed it, said, just eat more fruits and vegetables. But really, they meant less meat. but they wanted to get away from using the term vegetarian and meat. It upset people too much. So they got a new phrase. They said, we recommend no more than 5 to 6% of your calories be from saturated fat. Now, if you give your diet to a dietitian, have her calculate it out, you know that means vegetarian diet. Without using the term vegetarian, the Heart Association is very clever in the way they're saying that. Don't talk about meat. Don't talk about vegetarian diet. Just keep your saturated fat to no more than 5 to 6% of the calories.
You know what is interesting? That there are some new studies that they say that the highest meat consumption in US was in 75, 76, something like that. And but the amount of saturated fat remained stable because people switched it to the cheese sandwiches and desserts.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, they're still arguing about all these different factors. What are the factors, you know? But this saturated fat is the thing came in from the Heart Association, you know. I really look at them as pretty thoughtful in all their decisions, what they've said. They've been very careful what they said, how they say it. They don't have all the answers for everything, but they've been pretty accurate. We've lowered our heart attack rate tremendously in this country. Now, another thing I'd say is the vegetarian diet. For example, our rate for cardiovascular disease is not dropping so fast because of hypertension, diabetes, and overweight. Now, a vegetarian diet would help on all three of those. So we have
or
data
maybe
on the
little less
diet.
consumption of meat, because people are consuming like so much meat. In our countries,
Yes.
we are at the bottom of colon cancer and surviving of colon cancer at the real stage.
Yes.
Slovakia is number 1
Yeah.
or 2.
Now, Gary Fraser, a New Zealand cardiologist, was in charge of Loma Linda scientific studies. And Adventists were a good group to study. It's Adventist College. And they were a good group to study because they didn't smoke and they didn't drink. That was not any confounding factors in the two groups that they were studying, you see.
They could match
and
it.
So that was good. Now, he studied thousands of people here in California. And he found out that in the general population for the men, how many of them lived to be 85 or older? It was very low. 19.5%, I think it was. 19.5%. But for vegetarian men, 48.6% lived to be 85 or older.
Okay.
That's a tremendous difference.
Did they
Now, the
match
women
the
live longer.
calories? The calories? Did they match the calories of intake?
No, they didn't
And weight?
measure that. Just anyway, the thing that was exciting is the women lived longer than the men. 39.3% of them lived to be 85 or older. But for the vegetarian women, 60.1% lived to be 85 or older. Still quite a bit of difference. So we think the vegetarian diet was important. Now, this, of course, has to do with weight and diseases, heart disease. The vegetarian doesn't have near as many heart attacks, as many strokes. Vegetarians have less chance of hypertension, only half as much kidney disease, and things like this, you see. So it makes a lot of reasons why it's that way.
Hovorí o tom, že asociácie sú šikovné v tom, že obmedzili na 5 až 10% kalorického príjmu saturované tuky, že nechcú hovoriť o tom, že obmedziť mäso a živočíšne potraviny, ale že takýmto spôsobom sa vlastne musí obmedziť množstvo živočíšnych potravín, čo za väčšiny okolností je pravda, za niektorých nie, lebo keď si tam necháte kokosový olej, tak ten bude tých nasýtených tukov mať dostatok. Hovorím tam aj o tých dôkazoch, ktoré máme, že ľudia, ktorí redukovali, že tie saturované tuky jedli menej, že mäsa, tak v skutočnosti sa to nahradilo tým, že najväčšie zdroje nasýtených tukov v dnešnej dobe sú dezerty a sendviče, takže v skutočnosti ten príjem saturovaných tukov ostal nemenný. No a ďalej tam profesor hovorí o tom, že tak on je proponent vegetariánskej diety, ja som o tom vedel, keď som išiel do tohto rozhovoru, keďže je z Loma Linda, zóny dlhovekosti, kde je veľa vegetariánov, väčšina sú vegetariáni, o jeho kompletnej strave sa budeme za chvíľku baviť. A že v skutočnosti áno, že u nás aj ja som proponent, že nie vegetariánske diety, čo viete, ale teda, že konzumujeme veľa živočíšnych zdrojov potravy, najmä mäsa. Sme na chvoste z hľadiska celosvetových štatistík, zisťovania nových rakovín hrubého čreva, prežívania týchto pacientov. Čiže preto by tá strava mala byť založená hlavne, no nie len na rastlinných zdrojov potravín, kde, a teda tých čo najmenej spracovaných, pretože tam je veľa vlákniny, veľa tých fytochemikálií, ktoré pomáhajú zdraviu. Dostávame sa ku Loma Linda Studies, je to zóna dlhovekosti, ktorá je, akože má za sebou asi najkvalitnejšie štúdie a preskúmania tejto zóny, že je to dobrý kohort, dobrá populácia z toho dôvodu, že sú tam vegetariáni a že priemer populácie USA mal, alebo má, teraz som si není istý, šancu dožiť sa 85 a viac rokov 19, niečo percenta, ale adventisti z Loma Linda cez 40%. No a na to som povedal vlastne to, čo vieme, že nemečovali kalórie, to znamená, že áno, že ľudia, ktorí jedli menej mäsa, a porovnanie bežnej populácie s adventistami, je to vlastne otázka aj toho, že mali väčšiu kalorickú reštrikciu vegetariáni a tým pádom mali aj nižšie BMI, boli chudší a preto tá šanca, že mali ďalšie rizikové faktory, ktoré odstránené, ktoré ten zvyšok populácie tam nemal. Čiže nie je to iba otázka mäsa, je to aj otázka kalorickej reštrikcie, čo vieme, že je jeden zo spôsobov dosiahnutia dlhovekosti. Opäť sa tam ukazujú štatistiky, že ženy majú vyššiu šancu sa dožiť aj 85 a vyššieho veku. Práve tento kohort adventistov ženy mali šancu až 60%, že sa dožijú 85 rokov. Hovorí aj o tom, že vegetariáni majú menej zlyhávania obličiek, menej hypertenzie, nižšie hladiny cholesterolu a tak ďalej.
Like isolation. Mm-hmm. Because of COVID, everybody should be isolated, stay at home. It increases mortality rate at least 40%. One study showed as high as 93% increase in mortality rate. Isolation, church attendance, more social gathering, increased life expectancy by maybe 40%. So there's different factors we could look at and see about that. Now, one man took a group of people 110 years of age and tried to see what biological factors they all had good levels of. And they took a whole lot of white blood corpuscle count, the CRP, the systolic blood pressure, hemoglobin A1C, the creatinine, the albumin, the uric acid, a whole bunch of factors like this. And those 110 years old had good numbers for all of these factors. Well, if you look at the general population, 20% of the population has those same good numbers. But if they had proper lifestyle, they could also be 110. I don't know if that's a factor or not.
And when you said about the social factors, did you have it is also economic factors, and it's if you will have just standard education or higher education, it depends on the longevity depends on it. And also when we go through your life, did you have any hard times during your life? You've been through the Second World War. Yeah, so you have studied medicine when you have been at Second World War, and then...
They put me through medical school. The Army put me through medicine. They needed doctors, so they paid my way through, which is good, because here it's expensive to take medical course. In Europe it isn't. You can get it free. But with me, I would have had to pay a lot of money to take a medical course. Yeah. I didn't have any money. So the Army put me through, and they paid all the bills, gave me maybe $300 a month spending money besides.
Okay. And so you've been through the Second World War. Any like harder times throughout your life?
I've had incidents that were hard, but no long period of time.
Okay.
For example, I was in Korea, missionary. My house burned 2 different times, 2 different houses burned. And here at Loma Linda, I was in Loma Linda, and I had moved out into the country, and we were moving all of our things. I had my car, new second-hand Cadillac that I bought, just to say I had a Cadillac once. And beautiful car. Didn't have a lot of mileage on it. Well, I went to a house to see some friends just before I left town, waiting for some tax papers that I needed to have. Anyway, when I went to this house, the people in the house weren't there. I drove in the back, and I saw a man go by the back door, and I said to my wife, "There's somebody there. Let's go see who it is." We knocked on the door. A big, tall man came. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know these people's friends, And he said, a burglar broke into this house. And broke into a big window. I said they were taking out little ones, putting big ones in. Which one did they do this in? Back bedroom. I'd like to go see it. So we went to see it. He was behind us. Suddenly, my wife fell to the floor. I didn't hear anything. Why'd she fall? I, went over to, I was bending to see why she fell. When I felt the hammer hitting my head, but I was moving, so he didn't get a sharp blow on me. But he had hit my wife on the head and cracked her skull. And he wanted the keys to my car, and he drove my car away and stole my car. Now, it was new. I had a number underneath so they could identify where it was. They caught him in nothing flat. The police station was only 5 miles away. But I was bleeding. I ran out to the front road, to get a car to stop, and he stopped. I said, "Can you help me? That man stole my car going around the corner now. He may have killed my wife in the house. Call the police." And anyway, the police were there in nothing flat. That man got 20 years in jail. But I say, I've had incidents like this, but not many. Okay. That were bad at times, but no long period of stress like that. Okay.
They look like awful incidents, like
yeah.
Being in war, being burglared.
Yeah.
Ďalší rizikový faktor, ktorý spomína, je izolácia, že počas covidu sme to videli, že death rate išiel hore, nielen teda kvôli pandémii, ale kvôli izolácii ľudí. Je to veľmi dôležitý faktor dlhovekosti, aby ľudia neboli izolovaní. Bavíme sa aj o iných rizikových faktoroch pre nedosiahnutie dlhovekosti, ako sú ekonomické faktory. Vieme, že ľudia, ktorí majú prístup ku financiám, majú väčšiu šancu sa dožiť dlhšieho veku, lebo majú prístup ku lepšej zdravotnej starostlivosti a ku preventívnym aspektom života. Bavíme sa o vzdelaní, že štatistika hovorí, že ľudia čím sú viac vzdelaní, tým majú vyššiu šancu sa dožiť vyššieho veku v plnom zdraví. Dostávame sa do veľmi dôležitej časti rozhovoru, ktorá mnou teda zarezonovala, keď som sa pýtal profesora, či zažil nejaké ťažké časy. A on povedal, že nie, že zažil, že mal vlastne v pohode život, že zažil možno nejaké incidenty, ktoré boli ťažšie, ale ináč mal akože ľahký život. A ja, že však ale boli ste v druhej svetovej vojne. A on, že áno, ale že zaplatilo mi to medicínu, že štát mi zaplatil študovanie medicíny, aby som mohol ísť do vojny a byť tam medical care, čiže že u nich sa platí za školu, za študovanie a tým pádom, že on keď nemal žiadne peniaze, on bol za to vďačný. Čiže ten mindset je veľmi dôležitý a potom, že áno, že vlastne bol v Koreji vo vojne, keď bojovali s Koreou a že dvakrát mu zhorel dom a že raz ho chceli počas okradnutia nejaký pán spolu s manželkou, že ho skoro zavraždili, keď mu ukradol auto, že si kúpil Cadillac a že ich udrel do hlavy kladivom obidvoch, ale že ináč akože nemali ťažký život. Takže ten mindset je veľmi dôležitý, že on má skvelý mindset toho, že ako vníma život.
But now, how about genetics? I'm sure that's a factor. We really don't know how much a factor is. But I've outlived my two brothers. We're all from the same families, same mother and father. So it'd be similar genes, not necessarily, but possibly. How about income?
And what about the genes, like, okay, so you have the same genes, we know there are factors, but maybe the lifestyle changed the genes through the epigenetics and stuff like this. So you say right. That at 50 plus you changed your life, you crossed the roads with your brothers. So what did you did different on the countryside? You had more movement or?
I'll tell you what's different. When I was 51 years of age, I decided to quit my job teaching at the School of Public Health at Loma Linda and nutrition and I moved to the country. We found the nicest place to live, about an hour's drive from Yosemite National Park. Oh. We were up in the mountains, about 3,800 feet elevation, in the snow level. 10 minutes down, there was no snow, but I cleared the land. We bought 26 acres of land. It was up and down, and it was all forestry. I bought a Husqvarna chainsaw and started cutting the trees and made a road about a quarter mile to civilization and things like that. And I built a house for myself, small house. And so I exercise a lot, day in and day out. We filled 3 woodsheds full of wood. When I got to be 80, I decided it's time to buy a wood splitter. But we went over to Yosemite National Park. I climbed Half Dome from the basin to the top, 17 miles round trip. Did it all in one day. And I was 80 years of age.
You was 80 and how many miles?
17.
17 miles.
Yeah, in one day.
It's crazy.
And the last 200 meters or so, you pulled on ropes and cables to climb up the rock to Half Dome. Anyway,
cherry on the cake.
I was the oldest man for many years. Now there's another man in his 90s who's done it. I'll have to go do it again.
You have to do it again. Next year is yours.
Dostávame sa ku ďalšej dôležitej časti rozhovoru. Bavili sme sa o tom, že ako sa menil, alebo aký bol rozdiel v tej 50-ke medzi jeho bratmi a ním, že on v tých 51 rokoch odišiel z Loma Linda a išiel na countryside hodinku od Yosemiteho národného parku, kde kúpil 26 acres, obrovské množstvo pozemku, a kde jednak si musel postaviť svoj dom a jednak musel vysekať množstvo stromov, a že proste toto bol rozdiel, kým jeho bratia boli sedaví v tom kritickom veku okolo 50-ky, tak on mal veľa manuálnej práce a dovolím si povedať, že sekanie tisícky stromov, čo v rozhovore, ktorý sme mali predtým, my sme mali ináč 2 rozhovory, prvý sa nenahral, a že to proste trvalo roky a roky dennodennej fyzickej práce, ktorá skrývala v sebe kardio, silový tréning, funkčný tréning, všetko. Čiže tam bol ten hlavný rozdiel. A hovorí aj o tom, že v 80-ke bol v tej dobe najstarší človek, ktorý prešiel nejakú hike túru, trasu 17 mil, a že už ho niekto predbehol, takže sa rozhodol, že budúci rok to musí zopakovať, aby bol znova najstarší.
But now, income is the difference too. People have more income, have easier transportation to medical care, can get what they need easier than people with lower income. Now, my brother was an orthopedist. Okay. He had the best income of any of us. Here I was a doctor, but my son wrote in an English class paper, he had to write in class a paper, he wrote that his father was a doctor, but he said probably the poorest doctor in the world. Because I worked for the church most of my life. I didn't get hardly any money, income. So income didn't make the difference why I lived longer than my 2 brothers. Education. I have a master's in public health. I have MD, then master's in public health degree. My brother's orthopedist have a master's degree in orthopedics. And my other brother been through college about twice, enough to have become a lot of equivalent to a lot of our majors. So we all were well educated. That didn't make a difference. What about city planning? If they plan the cities so the parks are more accessible, where you have recreation, or they planned the city so there's a donut shop on every corner, or they plan the city so you can get alcohol easily accessible, tobacco easily accessible. All these kinds of things make a difference in city planning. Now, what else is there that makes a difference? Specific foods. Take, for example, not food, but water. Take, for example, water. In the Adjunct health study, they found out that if you drank 5 cups more a day compared to 2 or less, your heart attack risk and your first stroke risk dropped 50% for men. Okay. And for women, 40%. So getting water made a difference. And you can do that with a lot of foods, showing how they could make a difference.
Vegetable fruits and stuff like this, that's got a lot of water.
Yeah. Some people thought a ketogenic diet was good. Well, I'm not so sure. The way they do a ketogenic diet is cut down carbohydrate to 50 grams and add a lot of coconut oil. I don't think that's a good plan. But another way to get ketosis is to fast a day or 2 a week, or the 2 meal a day plan where you eat breakfast and lunch but no supper. Yeah. Towards the end of the day, you go into ketosis.
Time restricted fasting.
Yeah.
But it's better doing
fasting might be okay.
It's better doing this way, to have breakfast and lunch, not the other way.
Yeah, but the people who skip breakfast and eat supper, they die sooner. Yeah, night workers die sooner. Now, you should know by 1-sentence university course of nutrition. I figured it out, how to teach people everything they need to know about nutrition in 1 sentence.
Tell us.
And here it is what it is. Eat at the proper time. Mealtime. No snacking. Eat at the proper time. A variety, not a large variety of one meal, but over a period of 10 days to get all the nutrients. Eat at the proper time a variety of natural, non-processed food in quantity for ideal weight. Really, that's what you need to know. The principles of eating proper. But I've had lots of fun with that little sentence, 1-sentence university course. That was original with me.
Hovorí teda, opakuje aj to, že tých iných rizikových faktorov mali málo iných s bratmi, že mali dobré vzdelanie, že jeho brat bol bohatší, lebo bol ortopéd, že on mal z tohto hľadiska že najhoršiu prácu ako lekár, lebo že nezarábal veľa, ale že teda mali sa že na pomery, čiže tieto rizikové faktory tam neboli, že pokladá v rámci že plánovania mesta, čo je zaujímavý ako poznatok, môže byť rizikový faktor alebo protektívny faktor z hľadiska dlhovekosti, že kde sa nachádzajú miesta, kde sa človek dostane ku jedlu, ku donatám alebo možno alkoholu, fajčeniu, že to je tiež veľmi dôležité, že teraz sú robené asi tie plány tak, aby sa ľudia dostali do obchodu, do fast foodu a všade, aby proste nakupovali, aby podporovali ekonomiku a že možno to je otázka budúcnosti. Dôležitý rizikový faktor je hydratácia, ktorý spomína z Adventist Health Study, kde ľudia, ktorí pili 5 a viac pohárov denne, oproti tým, ktorí pili 2 a menej pohárov denne, mali nižšie riziko infarktu muži o 50% a ženy o 40%. Bavíme sa o tom, že on nie je fanúšik ketogénnych diet, kde sa znižuje množstvo sacharidov viac ako 50 gramov, teda menej ako 50 gramov denne, ale je fanúšik nejakých postov, alebo teda, že pravidelných intermittent fasting, tých time restricted fasting, že každodenných, že on je 2-krát denne, čiže hovorí o tom, že veľmi jednoducho si sa dá povedať, že treba jesť v proper time, čiže že v tých časoch, kedy sa má, proper foods, čiže tie jedlá, ktoré by sa mali a množstva, ktoré by sa mali jesť, na to, aby sa dosiahla ideálna hmotnosť a že decit.
That's great. So I have maybe few short questions with answers for you. What was your what kind of movement did you like the most throughout your life?
You know, I did some exercise, tennis playing. I did some roller skating in that day. We did bicycling.
Chopping woods.
But we weren't consistent in every day doing a lot of exercise.
Okay.
We didn't have it that much. But my brothers exercised about the same as I did.
Okay. And
now I did when I moved to the country.
Yeah.
I did exercise a lot.
Okay.
And my brothers, they had the card to go to the exercise facility in their purse. Once you have it in your purse, you're safe because you're exercising. You got it available, but you may not be getting it off.
There are like two different things to have a sedentary lifestyle and to not exercise. For me, there are two different things, because you can have sedentary lifestyle and exercise a few hours a week, and it's worse than not exercising and don't have sedentary lifestyle for longevity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I think we have had a hard time. What should I say? Hard time trying to sort this out. I don't think they've done enough research yet to sort out leisure time, working time, all those kind of things.
Yeah. And what about sleep? How consistent was your sleep throughout your life?
Well, I used to sleep quite well at night. I didn't have any problem sleeping. I have a harder time now.
Why is that?
I get an interesting thought, and I got to get up and write it down on the computer real quick before I forget it. I want to put that into my next lecture.
Okay.
So I have a harder time now getting 8 hours sleep.
Okay.
I get 7 quite easily, but 8 is hard.
Okay. What about managing of stress and stuff like this? What do you do? Like,
you know, stress is not the factor. It's your reaction to the stress.
That's true.
That is the factor. And I think having good friends.
Yeah.
Now, how do you know if you have a good friend? If you can borrow money from him, he's a good friend. Otherwise, how do you know if he's a good friend?
That's true. That's true. Okay. And what about the, so about the foods? What are your top choices for fats? Like, do you like olive oil, nuts? What do you like?
Okay. Food, I'm vegetarian, number one. Yeah. Of the oils, I have varied them quite a bit. I know quite a bit about fats because of my interest in heart disease. So I would say, if you didn't know anything about them, canola oil, Canada oil, rapeseed oil is a good one.
Yep.
But otherwise, I can tell you why some are better than others. For example, stigmasterol, beta-cytosterol are in corn oil in greater quantities than a lot of other oils.
Yep.
And that's good because they kind of compete with the cholesterol for absorption. So
phytosterols.
The plant sterols are good. The canola oil used to be bad because it had a particular fatty acid that was not good, increased heart attack rate. But what they did was the plants that had the least amount of that factor, and plant a lot of it, and then take the ones with the least amount of that in that field and plant it again, and gradually got rid of it, the factor that was causing the problem. So canola now, I think, is much better oil than it used to be.
Okay. Olive oil? Do you like olive oil?
Olive oil is a good oil. That's mostly, though, the oleic acid, like avocado.
Yeah.
It's a good oil.
Yeah.
I'm promoting avocado and soybean a lot.
Yeah.
Tofu. I think tofu is a good food, but it's only processed food I kind of really recommend.
Okay.
But the way we eat it in the U.S. is so little.
Yeah.
It's not enough to do you any good. You need to get 20 grams in a shot.
And what about fish oil? What about fish oil with the omega-3s?
Fish oil, well, fish oil has cholesterol in it. That's the problem.
And does it raise?
When I was a kid, my mother used to give me vitamin D, cod liver oil. But doctors don't do that anymore. They don't want you to get the cholesterol, so they'll give you the pill.
But does it raise your endogenous cholesterol in your blood?
Cholesterol in your blood?
Yeah, because it's different, the cholesterol in food and endogenous cholesterol in the blood.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily related.
Yeah.
In fact, they're taking it out as being a bad thing anymore, cholesterol in the food. But your blood cholesterol level, what should the level be? Now, we've had some things happening, scandals. The fellow who is most opposed to keeping the pharmaceutical industry out of there, influencing them and telling you what was good in this scientific research or that, they put him off the board of that group that was expert in this field. 2 others resigned because of it. It was a scandal. And then 15 people got together to decide how low your LDL cholesterol should be. And they should have said it should be down to 100. Because 8 of them were getting paid by the companies that make the drug to lower your cholesterol. So I don't think that was a fair study. I knew what it should be before they even came out with the guidelines. I wrote letters to all my patients. I'd done 4,000 or 5,000. I wrote letters to them. Your LDL cholesterol should be 120 or less.
Okay.
When they did finally come out, the U.S. came out and said it should be 130 or less, and Great Britain said it should be 115 or less, and I had 120.
You was close.
So that was pretty close. And so I didn't, we had no levels recommended when I was doing a lot of this stuff. And
so you are vegetarian, but you are not vegan, yeah? So you eat milk. What kind of
milk, and I use some eggs.
Okay. So you eat yogurt, kefir, some kind of fermented milk products, cheese, and like this.
I don't eat cheese.
Okay.
Really.
Because of the high amount of saturated fat.
I've never used coffee.
Okay.
Or tea,
okay.
And vegetarian almost for all my life.
Okay. So you eat mostly plant proteins, tofu, soybeans, a little bit of milk and egg sources of protein.
I'll tell you, I eat a lot of fruit.
Yeah, so that
I call myself a fruitarian rather than vegetarian.
so
I use a lot of fruit.
You like fruit more than vegetables?
Yeah. Mango is nothing better than a nice ripe mango.
Okay. Ripe mango is your best. What about berries? Do you like berries, strawberries, and stuff like this?
I like them all, yeah. Okay. One time I planted 9,000 strawberry plants.
I agree.
People said, what do you do with all those strawberries? They don't understand. But everybody likes strawberries. That's the best way to make friends there is, to give them strawberries.
And you had a little bit of movement.
So I would say, though, the main thing that was different from me and my brothers, I moved to the country when I was 51, mid-age, and worked like mad out there, wished the sun would stay up longer. so I could work more.
Yeah.
I was that interested in working to get the grounds cleaned up, to get the farm in, make a road, build a house, all this kind of stuff. I worked hard.
Okay, great. And you said that you've been to Philippines, so that's when you tried the mangoes first?
Mangoes, I like to think of the Philippines because of the mangoes. That's right. I also like persimmons.
Okay.
I like them.
And what kind of nuts do you like the most? I like the most macadamia nuts.
Gary Fraser was the one who said, these 5 things you should do. He showed how the ones who had seeds and nuts was one of the 5. Yeah. And he said we need to have a handful of nuts every day. And, that's quite a few. 21, 22 almonds would be a handful of them. But these people seem to live the longest. Yeah. It helps to decrease the heart attack risk quite a bit. The walnuts did the best of the nuts.
Okay.
The
walnuts. Yeah, they got a lot of omega-3s when you compare them to the other nuts. And when we are at the nuts, a lot of longevity zones, the blue zones, use nuts, and there is one thing that is common in every 5 of them. They use legumes and beans. And
they do.
So when we speak about the longevity zones, you lived throughout your life in your longevity zone. You lived in Loma Linda. So Loma Linda is one of the 5 blue zones.
But I didn't live there all my life.
Yeah, sure. But
medical school days and afterwards,
Yeah. And but you know quite a lot of data from Loma Linda. And what do you think about the blue zones from the guy named Butler, the one that wrote it?
Yeah. I know him, and I was to his meetings, and I tried to give him a list of things like I gave you today, of factors that are involved with this. He wasn't interested in that.
Okay.
He was interested in journalism.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this diet? Do you like it? How do you feel about it? That's what he was interested in, not scientifically whether this is going to increase your life expectancy any or not. Didn't make a difference to him.
Yeah. Scientifically, the most data is in Loma Linda.
Yeah, the U.S., that was the place where they had more of them living than anywhere else. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, so you said in one sentence that what people should eat and how the people should eat. So you said that you use mostly plants or plant-based diet. You exercised a lot. You had a lot of social aspects in your life, managing of stress responses. You was quite happy throughout your life. What did I miss? You are fasting right now, yes?
I don't eat dinner, 2 meals a day.
And for how long do you do it?
Oh, I've been doing that since my kids were old enough to know if I ate supper. Because we were putting them on it. And I couldn't be eating supper if I told them not to.
Okay. So.
But they were raised on that, not eating supper. And it's helped in another way. They tend not to eat between meals much more.
Yeah, snacking is like lot calories hidden. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what do you have any last words from this interview for our listeners to to have a good, long but healthy life? I think it's more important to have a healthy life, to have the brain functions, to have physical functions throughout the life, because you can have long life, but not so with a lot of quality. So, what do you?
Yes, I think what we know from the Heart Association recommendations, I think they have it pretty straight, pretty good. Now, even though maybe cholesterol is not so bad, the foods that it's in are definitely cause more prostate cancer, intestinal cancer, all this kind of stuff. So I think we've got enough studies to show how beans are good. For example, in the Adventist Health Study from Loma Linda, Dr. Gary Fraser showed that if you eat meat only once a week, you have 2.5 times greater risk of colon cancer. But if you eat beans 6 days a week, that negates all that increased risk.
Yeah.
You have no excess risk. So the beans counteract the effect of the meat.
Pýtam sa ho na také rýchle otázky, že aké preferuje cvičenia. Hovoril, že ako mladí s bratmi mali podobné cvičenia, že boli nejaký roller skating, nejaký bicykel, ale že neboli nejaký konzistentní v tom cvičení. Ale jeho bratia potom, že boli ešte menej konzistentní a on v tej 50-ke proste fakt veľa makal. Bavíme sa aj o tom, že sú vlastne dva rizikové faktory, že je sedavý spôsob života a je potom, že necvičenie a že v skutočnosti vychádza z tých štúdií, že ľudia, ktorí necvičia, ale nemajú sedavý spôsob života a sú aktívni počas dňa, sú na tom lepšie ako tí, ktorí sedavý spôsob života majú, že hodiny denne sedia a potom chvíľku denne cvičia. Hovorí aj o tom, že mal celý život dobrý spánok, že nemal problém so spánkom, spával priemerne okolo 8 hodín, že teraz ten problém má a zvaľuje to na to, že keď ho napadne nejaká zaujímavá myšlienka, ktorú by dal do prednášky, tak musí stať zapísať si to do počítača. Veľmi dôležitá veta, ktorú povie profesor, že stres nie je problém. Problém je tvoja reakcia na stres. Alebo stresov. Veľmi dôležitá veta do života. Ďalej hovorí o tom, že veľmi dôležitý faktor pre dlhovekosť je mať dobrých priateľov. A hovorí kľúč k tomu, že ako zistíš, že je niekto dobrý priateľ, že keď ti požičia peniaze. Bavíme sa o tom, že aké tuky alebo zdroje tukov používa. Pre ňoho repkový olej je skvelý, olivový olej je skvelý, orechy. A bavíme sa o tom, že kedysi repkový olej, to je taký ten mýtus, že repkový olej že je negatívny. Tie štúdie vieme, aké vychádzajú, že je minimálne tak, ak nie o niečo viac pozitívny z hľadiska tých outcomes zo štúdií, čiže ako vplyva na zdravie, ako olivový olej, a že kedysi tam bola jedna mastná kyselina v repkovom oleji, ktorá sa zistila, že nemá až tak pozitívny vplyv, ale potom sa podarilo vypestovať druh, kde už táto mastná kyselina nebola a už je to v poriadku. Ja som sa teda spýtal potom na rybí olej, lebo viem, že nekonzumuje ryby a na to zareagoval, že teda rybí olej obsahuje omega-3, ktoré sú prospešné, ale že obsahuje cholesterol. Na čo som teda ja reagoval, že áno, ale cholesterol máme endogénny, ten, čo sa tvorí v tele, a potom ten z ostravy, a že ten z ostravy nemení toľko hladiny cholesterolu v krvi. Bavíme sa tam aj o tom, že koľko si myslí, že by mal byť LDL cholesterol, že on už predtým, ako vyšli guideliny, hovoril pacientom, ktorých zažil tisícky, že ideálne je mať LDL cholesterol pod 120 mg na deciliter, čiže pod nejakých 3,1. Bavíme sa aj o tom, že teda je vegetarián, nie je vegán, konzumuje mliečne potraviny, nekonzumuje syry, ale konzumuje mlieko, jogurty, kefíry a podobne, konzumuje vajíčka. Takisto konzumuje iné zdroje bielkovín z rastlinného sveta, ako sú teda najmä strukoviny. A zeleninu až tak nepreferuje, že preferuje najmä ovocie, že celý život miluje ovocie viac ako zeleninu a že je veľký fanúšik manga. Vraj jedol najlepšie manga na Filipínach, keď tam učil. Je veľký fanúšik bobulovitého ovocia, lesných plodov a že raz zasadil 9000 kusov plants jahod. Kde sa opýtali ľudia, že čo budete robiť s toľkými jahodami? A on na to povedal, že they don't understand, že oni tomu nerozumejú. Že ľudia majú radi jahody. A je to pravda. Že keď chcete mať priateľov, tak musíte zasadiť jahody. Máme sa tam aj o zónach dlhovekosti, kde teda hovorím o tom, že všetky zóny dlhovekosti majú spoločné to, že konzumujú strukoviny. A čo hovorí teda na pána Büttnera, ktorý založil tie modré zóny, A on, že jasné, že ho pozná, ale že jemu nezáležalo pri tých zónach dlhovekosti na nejakých tvrdých dátach, ale o tom, že ako vnímaš túto dietu, ako sa ti páči táto dieta, že ho zaujímali skôr také sociálne aspekty. Bavíme sa aj o tom, že teda, že robí ten pôst, že nevečeria a pýtam sa ho, že odkedy to robí, a on, že odkedy jeho deti boli dostatočne staré na to, aby ho nevedeli odkontrolovať, že nie je večerou. Bavíme sa aj o tom, že snackovanie je taký plíživý, veľký zdroj kalórií príjmaných navyše, o čom hovoríme pomerne pravidelne. Bavíme sa aj o tom, že Fraser, ktorý študoval Loma Linda ako zónu dlhovekosti, prišiel, alebo teda jeho tím prišiel na to, že konzumácia strukovín môže veľmi významne protektívne vplyvať napríklad na niektoré druhy rakovín, že zistili tam spojitosť, že tí, čo jedia mäso už raz týždenne, majú 2,5-násobne vyššie riziko rakoviny hrubého čreva, ale tí, ktorí konzumujú 6 krát týždenne strukoviny, tak toto riziko zmažu a nemajú ho zvýšené.
Well, I think we need to keep having goals in life, things we're trying to achieve. We should have interest in life.
To have a purpose.
We want to get this accomplished.
To have a purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
No a na záver sa bavíme o mindsete, ktorý odporúča. Hovorí o tom, že treba nejaké svoje goals, treba... Je to skrátka to isté, čo hovoria v Japonsku ako Ikigai, na Kostarike, v Nikoji, v Landevida, že purpose, čiže nejaký dôvod každé ráno stať z postele, žiť a užívať si život, vážiť si ho, proste vnímať, že sme tu len raz podľa všetkého, ak neveríte nejakým iným nebiologickým mechanizmom, takže máme si proste ten život užívať a mať nejaký dôvod, prečo žiť.
Okay, it was really great to talk with you. I'm really honored to have two talks with you already, and from both our talks I gained so much information. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tento podcast má iba informačný charakter. Informácie z tohto podcastu neslúžia ako diagnostika a terapia vášho zdravotného stavu. Využitie informácií a hlavne nesprávnym spôsobom je na divákov a poslucháčov vlastné riziko. Počúvanie podcastov nesupluje návštevu vášho lekára.